Make sure it's on. Okay, we're good. Hello, friends.
Hi.
We are gonna make a few videos for you guys, and we'll have different bullet points for each video. In the first video, I want to talk about two things: our relationship to money growing up individually, and our relationship to money as a couple. Would you like to start us off, Daniel?
Sure.
I can start us off if you want me to.
Why don't you start?
Okay, I'll start. So my relationship to money growing up was, I didn't realize I had a relationship to money growing up because we didn't really talk about money, but that means I really did. I still had a relationship with money. I did, yes. And so we didn't have a lot of money, but we were still like middle class, but we were in a lot of debt. And I never knew that. We didn't ever talk about it. So we were in a lot of debt, and whenever we got like some kind of like cash overflow or like a gift of money or something, we would spend it on like something like nice or extravagant, which we didn't necessarily need to do. We never talked about money. We never talked about savings or like goals with money. It was more just like when we had money, we spent it, we used it. I don't know if we ever like got ourselves out of debt. Actually, I know we didn't. I don't think that was ever a goal to get out of debt. It was basically just to survive and have fun. So it wasn't a super great understanding of what money can do for us, and how it's a really good tool when you can harness it and use it well.
That's great.
Thanks.
So growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was an engineer, and I think he probably made pretty good money growing up. But my parents always lived under their means quite a bit, and to the point actually growing up, I always knew that my dad probably made more money than most of my friends, but they all had nicer houses and fancier cars and more toys. And so my dad really instilled in me from a young age that, you don't need material things to, necessarily be happy, or they don't really enhance your life a whole lot. And we always kind of lived like steady and consistent. Like we didn't really ever have a whole lot of really high highs with money, and we didn't have a whole lot of low lows. We just kind of did slow and steady with money. Even if my dad would get a big bonus or something like that, we wouldn't necessarily go on a fancy vacation or buy anything with it. We would just know my dad got a bonus. And I think fast forwarding a little bit, when I was first getting my first jobs, and maybe even back to when I was getting allowance, my parents always talked to me about the importance of saving money and not really spending it. And so that's kind of what I always did, was when I worked a job or did chores or whatever, I didn't really spend money. I'd always save it and then maybe buy one nice thing with it. But we didn't really have a whole lot of conversations about money growing up. It was just kind of an understood. It wasn't like we weren't super intentional, like having allowance, like budgets and like tithing with an allowance or doing anything like that. But we were definitely comfortable and had our basic needs met. And I think a lot of how I handle money now is probably kind of a continuation or an iteration on how my dad spent money growing up. Is that pretty good?
That's awesome.
Any questions?
No, I think that was really great.
Awesome.
It was very thorough. So, as you can imagine, we have way different backgrounds with money. So, coming together as a couple, how we first started off with money was interesting. So, yeah, we both came in with those two ideas of what money is like, I was like, let's just do whatever we want, basically, and to some degree. And then Daniel was pretty excited about saving, and he was, when we first started dating, he would always wonder why I would spend money at a gas station. He's like, why are you buying snacks, and why are you doing all these things? Like, we just ate lunch. Like, if you want snacks, maybe put that in your grocery budget, things. And I remember once at the gas station story, this will kind of help understand how we've evolved, I guess, with these stories. We were dating. Were we engaged yet? We must have been engaged.
Yeah.
And because it was getting more serious about money, and we walked into a gas station because we were picking up our bed. That's what we did. And
so we're married.
We were married. Yeah.
For like 2 months.
We were married for 2 months, and we pulled into a gas station to get gas, and I came out with 2 Gatorades and 2 snack bars and a bag of chips or something like that. And I thought Daniel would appreciate it and really like it. Oh, she's thoughtful and got snacks for us for our long trip to pick up our bed. And he was not happy. He was really annoyed by it because he was like, this is money we could be saving. If you were hungry or thirsty, maybe we could have shared a Gatorade, or maybe we could have shared a bag of chips or something like that. And I was like, it was over. I was like, oh, okay. And I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I realized it was important when I realized why he got irritated about it. Then I realized it was important to him about saving money, and it wasn't just he was irritated for a random reason or because we're different. Like, why would you do it like that? It's like, well, that wasn't why he was frustrated.
Yeah.
So, what else do you think? How our relationship has been with money?
Yeah. So, I think that the one thing I've realized with money over the years is that it doesn't really matter how much you have. You can always use it wisely. And on I guess a quick tangent, I worked with a guy, and he retired when he was, I think, 55, and he had a pretty low level office job, kind of like a clerk, and he was retiring at the age of 55 with no debt and a couple $1 million in savings because he literally just never spent money. And that kind of stood out to me because he chose to, take what little he had and save some of it. And so kind of what I realized from him was that it doesn't matter how much you make. That doesn't mean you're going to retire. The people who retire get to do things with money that are fun are the people who are successful at saving money. So that kind of taught me that, even, every time you buy something that you don't necessarily need, you're just, you're kind of just throwing away a bit of your retirement in that moment. So, but kind of for me coming into marriage, I didn't really have a specific budget, but I just kind of would always have dollar limits for myself of how much I could spend in a month. And that's kind of how I budgeted. It wasn't super specific, but as we were married and we tried to do my system, I realized that with 2 people just trying not to spend money didn't really work. So that's when we really had to get more serious about budgets together, and I think we learned a lot about how to do budgets together. It wasn't necessarily a learned skill that I had ahead of time, even though maybe I was bringing some money spending habits to the table. So
True.
We got to grow a lot in how we spend money and how we track how we spend money.
Right, that's true. And I think then we'll talk about it more in some following videos, but it took me understanding why it was important for Daniel to praise the Lord for why it was important from Daniel's point of view. And it took me a while to understand his point of view. But I think it took me a while to understand his point of view, but understanding his point of view helped me to follow through with just being more more productive with money.
Yeah.
So, all right. I think we covered that.
That's great.
Pretty good?
Good
Okay.
job.
All right.
Hopefully this helped. Let us know if you have
Yay.
questions.
Okay, yeah, let us know if you have questions. That's a good one.
Hurry up, baby!